Yeah, a few times. I mean, the thing about talking about finance and banks is that there's no risk. I mean, you can say Jamie Dimon's a cunt, and Jamie Dimon won't care because they can always print more money. But when I said on Al Jazeera that I declared a fatwa on Al Jazeera against Hank Paulson during the 2008 crisis, it said that his head should bounce down the Capitol stairs in Washington, D.C. Right? I said I was trying to trigger Salman Rushdie on a U.S. official on Al Jazeera English. I mean, that was probably one of the dicier moments in my broadcasting career. And the response was from Al Jazeera. They invited me back the next week, and they said, "We'll have you back to talk about stuff. Please don't issue any fatwas." You know, that was their request. But when you're talking about the finance world, literally, they don't care. The times that I have veered into other areas in energy and defense or military spending. Okay, the most journalists murders are environmental journalists covering the energy industry. Every year, many get murdered, and if I don't cover that area for that reason, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. Also, military contractors. I make jokes about them, etc. But I don't do an expose like on Rockwell or Boeing. You know, like I would never go out there and say an insider told me Boeing, is selling faulty equipment or something like that, because they would fucking kill me. They kill people. Yeah. Right. That's so. Yes. So it sounds like, oh, I'm saying stuff that is, could potentially be trouble. But, if it's in finance, nobody cares, is what I'm saying. I never felt ever at risk saying anything about people in the finance business. But in the oil or energy sector or the defense military contracting sector, it's definitely another story. Look at Julian Assange. Okay? He posts video of the U.S. industrial complex killing people from a helicopter, and he just went through this harsh ordeal, and he now is free, thank goodness. But that's not for me. So I mean, I have my guardrails that I wouldn't. On the finance side and on the Bitcoin side, I bring enough interest to it, and I think that's the solution for it. I think that's the answer to it. I think everyone benefits from it. So I'm happy to stay there, but it's not like I think I'm Teflon and that nothing can hurt me. That's why I stay away from areas that I know would be dangerous for me.
Well, that's fascinating. Really quickly on Bucky Fuller. I know you're a student of Bucky Fuller.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a student of Bucky Fuller, but I've studied his work. I've read his books, and he's a guy who exemplifies this attitude that we're talking about authenticity. He made the decision very early on in his career that he was only going to do things that would help humanity as a whole. So he did the geodesic dome, and he invented the electric car. And so he was selflessly pursuing science and engineering and architecture for the benefit of humanity. And he made that decision as a very young man. Yeah. And he stuck to that because that's who he was. And he stayed true to who he was. And he created the Buckminster Fuller as we know him, and a fantastic legacy. And I think that's a good example. Philosophically, we've heard since Socrates to know thyself, right? This is actually one of the most difficult things anyone can undertake, is self-knowledge, to go into one's self and to look critically at oneself and to accept oneself. I mean, part of the sobriety story is to acceptance is a big word you see in AA meetings and in sobriety. And a lot of it is accepting yourself, accepting the fact that you have made a mess of things initially when you begin, and you need to at least acknowledge that to begin with, that you have made this mess, acknowledge this, and to go from that starting point. But I'd say Buckminster Fuller is like that. You know, a lot of my favorite artists are musicians, and you know, I'm always looking for stuff that I think just pops because it's authentic. You know, and that energizes me because I'm trained I don't know if the word is trained myself, but I've opened myself up to having my preconceptions challenged all the time because they're always changing. You know, biases and preconceptions, ideologies are very limiting. You know, in economics, we've had only a few schools of economics. You know, Keynesian, Austrian, you know, socialism, capitalism, right? So really, Bitcoin is a new chapter in economics. It's a new chapter in money. And for people who spent their whole life studying economics and money, are they willing to say everything they've learned up until that point is wrong? No, they're not willing to say that. Very few.
Yes.
You know, maybe 2 or 3. You know, for me, because I've been reluctant to get too monolithic in what I do and stick with something for too long and become too rigid in my thinking. You know, Bitcoin comes around and I'm allowing it to like I said, you know, I wrote the phrase, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you, right? Really so cool. That came from a conference called Crypto Springs in Palm Springs, California, and this woman comes up to me and you know, she just found out about Bitcoin and here's how she can make it better. You know, and like I've heard this now from many people over years. I'm like, look, you don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you, right? And it's just like, you know, that's it. You know, that, and I only mention that because a lot of people use that phrase and I get no accreditation. Like so much of the intellectual property in this industry, I never get credit for. I mean, Michael Saylor, half the shit he says, I said first, okay? The other half is from Trace Mayer, okay? And I stole Trace Mayer shit, okay? So it's Trace Mayer, Max, and then Michael Saylor. But, you know, he doesn't give accreditation? No, I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, it's all good because we're all on the same pilgrimage to the Bitcoin singularity when we join with Satoshi. And the whole concept of money is redefined in our global unconscious minds, and violence is demonetized absolutely.
What do you think the next 5 years looks like, the next 10 years looks like when you kind of look out and say, holy cow, like, what do you see? Is this just exponentially speeding up? It seems that way. What are your thoughts?
If you want the answer to that question right there and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Good luck.